Everyone's got their fair share of guilty pleasures. You know that there's that one pop song that you turn up when no one else is around. Well, today I'm going to share with you some of my guilty musical displeasures. Things I feel like I should like, and I'm a little embarrassed to say that I don't. I know many of you will have very different feelings about the things I'm going to mention. And that's one of the great things about music, is just because I have a different opinion than you, that doesn't mean yours is any less valid. The world would be boring if we all liked the same things. So without any further ado, here are 7 of my guilty musical displeasures. To start things off, I don't care much for Nirvana. If I'm listening to the radio and one of their songs comes on, I'll change the station. I've listened to all their albums at least once, and quite simply, I just don't like the way their music sounds. But at the same time, I have a huge amount of respect for Kurt Cobain and their art. This will be a recurring theme on this list. I think it's possible to respect someone's art while accepting it doesn't necessarily line up with your personal tastes. And with Nirvana, I'm not sure I can pinpoint what I dislike. I like the attitude, I like Kurt's voice, I like the lyrics, but the overall sonic vibe just doesn't do anything for me. To wrap up each of my guilty displeasures, I'll let you know one thing I do like about them. For Nirvana, I will say that Smells Like Teen Spirit is worthy of all the accolades, but what I find especially cool is their cover of Lead Belly's Where Did You Sleep Last Night? My next guilty displeasure is one I've mentioned before and one that I know many of you will disagree with me about, but it's the genre of metal. This one's a bit tricky because there are so many things that can potentially fall under the metal umbrella. And if we're considering Black Sabbath and Rage Against the Machine as metal, then I definitely do like it. But anytime I've hung out with metalhead friends and brought up a certain band or played something I particularly like, I'm told it's hard rock, not metal, whatever the difference is. Like I said with Nirvana, I do have a great respect for the genre as a whole. To all my metalhead viewers, don't hate me too much, all the love to you. Now keep in mind, I don't know a ton about the genre, but I've never been drawn in by the things I have been exposed to. The general timbre of the songs is a little overwhelming for me. Double kick drum, chugging guitars, screaming vocals are not really sounds that fit any moods or situations that I often find myself in. A lot of the time I hear more classical elements in the composition or structure, whereas I'm usually drawn to something that's more blues based. On top of that, the aggression that I feel the music embodies doesn't really speak to me. The idea of going into a mosh pit, terrifying. I save those emotions for the hockey rink. And I know I'm generalizing a lot here. If I'm totally off base in my assessment of the genre, you're probably right. This is just how I see things. Having said that, you guys once told me about the band Ghost, and I did quite enjoy them. All right, let's go in a bit of a different direction for our next displeasure. I don't really listen to much music in the car. This was definitely not always the case. I used to listen to music any chance I could get. And don't get me wrong, I'll still throw in an album now and then and enjoy every second of it. But it seems more and more I'll opt for a podcast or a sports radio talk show. See, I spend almost all of my working hours in music one way or another. I find I need to step away from it when I can in order to clear my head and keep from burning out. Now that I'm able to put full-time hours into music, I'm much more selective into what I consume when I'm not working. One band I have enjoyed in the car lately though is the Canadian rock group July Talk. Next up is the Queen of Tottenham, London, one of the most powerful voices in all of music, Adele. I feel like I should like Adele more because she has such an incredible voice. Her songs are well written, they're heartfelt, the production is great, but I can't listen to more than one song at a time. I find her music lacks the subtlety and grit of an artist like, say, Amy Winehouse. When I listen to Amy, I feel like I'm experiencing her pain with her, whereas with Adele, I feel like she is projecting her pain at me. Of course, having said all that, I can acknowledge that 21 is a pop masterpiece. Moving on to my next guilty displeasure is mainstream Canadian country music. This is one that I'm pretty close to, as it's a market that I've worked in extensively. Now, there's a lot of American country music that I don't care for at all, but there's also some stuff in there that I deeply love. I think the difference between our nations is that there's just way more money in the American market. Besides Shania Twain, no Canadian has really ever crossed over down south. So it seems that all the best songs written in Nashville will go to the artists that can generate more money with them. I can also hear it in the recording quality. Canadian country has much more evident auto-tune to my ears, the production doesn't take a ton of risks, and I just find the whole thing somewhat bland. On top of that, the fake southern accent kills me. I have a tough time taking someone seriously if they're singing about collard greens and fried green tomatoes with a Kentucky accent when I know they went to a private school in Toronto. Having said that, I have a friend from my college days. Her name is Megan Patrick. She's authentic and awesome. Go check her out. And next on my list is a type of guitar, the Gibson Les Paul. I've yet to find a Les Paul that I've connected with, which is strange because so many of my idols have played them. To me, the necks don't quite feel right and the sound is not what I hear in my head. When I worked in a music store, I tried out countless Les Pauls and Nothing. However, there are other Gibsons that I absolutely adore. The hollow bodies and the acoustics come to mind. The one guitar in this style that I have bonded with is that Ibanez copy that pops up in my videos from time to time. I won't stop my search though. I believe somewhere out there is a Les Paul for me. Last on my list for today is the concept of shredding, and not necessarily as it pertains to a particular genre, but more so the general idea. My definition of shredding is doing something flashy for the sake of impressing others. And I'll be the first to admit that many of the guitarists that we classify as shredders bring a strong sense of musicality to what they do. I just don't love the idea of music as a sport or as a physical feat. That's not my relationship with it. To me, it's about recreating human emotions through the art of sound. When I listen to B.B. King, I feel something. When I listen to Malmsteen, I am in awe of his technical ability, but it gets old quick. As far as shredding that I like goes, big fan of Jared Dines' Shred Wars. It's the perfect setting for this style. He makes it fun, and it's really cool to see all these highly talented YouTubers showing off their skills. As long as he's putting those videos out, I'll be watching them. If you don't know him, go check him out. That's it for today, and I want to reiterate that my thoughts on these things are nothing more than personal opinions. I would imagine that everyone would disagree with at least one thing on my list. Different tastes and preferences keeps the world exciting. Diversity is a great thing. If you're feeling a deep desire to rage at me or call me out on any of my displeasures, feel free to leave me a comment. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. These videos are made possible by the people who support me on Patreon, and I want to give a big shout out to every one of you. There's a lot of instability when it comes to making YouTube your living, and you guys really help balance that out. Thank you all. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.